Binge the full week of The Ray Taylor Show ad-free over at patreon.com/inspired disorder.
What you manifest in your mind, you can bring to reality.
28 weeks later, it is the sequel film to the 28 Days Later zombie-esque film directed by Danny Boyle. This one is directed by Juan Carlos Fresnadillo. Juan Carlos Fresnadillo. Yes, it is a movie that I don't know if I have seen all the way through, but I'm glad I revisited it. I enjoyed this movie on aspects. I think the first part of this film, the first 40 minutes of this film, is one of the best short films I've ever seen. Like, there's a point in this movie where if they had just cut it and just left it there, like standing ovation. It was beautiful. So there's going to be some spoilers. I mean, this movie came out, 20 years ago or something like that? 2007, 15 years ago almost. But it is great. It is also, we have new stars in this one. We have Jeremy Renner showing up. We have, what's that guy's name? Robert Carlyle, who's great. I really enjoy him in all those movies, all his movies. And then I forget who plays. Idris Elba is in this movie as a commander or whatever. So a new cast, but let's see. Carlisle's great. So this movie starts off, right? You have your farmhouse back in the UK. Obviously, like I said, zombie-esque movie. They're not actually zombies. They're not the living dead. It is a virus, the rage virus, that takes 10 to 20 seconds, to infect the host. So it is a quick turn. If anybody gets a drop of blood or saliva in their mouth, despite the first film where people were blowing up and covered in blood, but somehow they didn't get any blood or saliva in their orifices. So it doesn't take a lot for you to get infected and change. This one's taking place 28 weeks later from the initial infection, so 6 months-ish. We are back in the UK. They have, as far as they know, eradicated the threat. The U.S. Army is there to help facilitate people who survived this outbreak to kind of repopulate and start over, bringing people back in that were refugees in another country while everything was happening in the UK. And you have, but first, before that, my bad. I mean, that's what's happening in the reality of this thing. But the way this movie starts is you're at this little farmhouse with just a few people who have survived together. This small community of people, a couple older people, a couple of these people, a couple of that people, and then you have Dawn and Scarlett. I believe Scarlett played his wife, or it's Alice, one of the two. No, Alice is. Yeah, I think Alice is his wife. But anyway, Robert Carlyle and his wife, the guy, whatever, they are there, and a kid comes knocking at the door, screaming, asking for help, asking to be let in. And, of course, they're all there in this thing, boarded up, trying to hide from these zombies. But this kid is outside, and it's clear that, Don and his wife had a kid. It's kind of, just through the situation, you can kind of tell that, they lost something along the way. So they go to help this kid. That opens up the potential for zombies. Zombies come, they attack. All shit, this is all happening, boom, 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 1 second after another. It's instant action with this thing. And it's this peaceful setting where they're surviving, all of a sudden, instantaneously, gets flipped upside down, and everybody's dying. Everybody's trying to survive within this little farmhouse. And Dawn in an effort, like is separated between, like in between him is a zombie, and on the other side of the room is his wife and this kid that they're trying to save, and he has a choice to try and save them, which ultimately would have ended in his death or him turning. It's either to try and save them or save himself. And as I'm sure most people who would survive in a zombie apocalypse are going to have situations like this, where you have to decide the attempting to save somebody while risking your life, turning, dying, whatever, or saving your life. And he decides to save his life. And as he's running away from this farmhouse, looking back over his shoulder, he sees her in the window, and then she just gets ripped away from the window, and you see him running, and there's a herd of zombies chasing after him. Because it's the rage virus and not, the Walking Dead, they run fast. These are fast zombies. So he is running, and he's running over this grassy knoll, trying to get away from these zombies. But it's just heartbreaking that he had a moment where he could have saved her. He knew that he let her down, that he selfishly thought to save himself, and even saw her get swept away. Just brutal start to this movie. And it keeps going. It's like he's not even safe yet. He runs. There's a guy with a boat. He's like, get in the boat. The guy with the boat is like, what? And the zombies can swim, and it's just chaos. And he's in the boat, and he gets away. This other guy dies. He gets away. And, it's like this thing where he's finally, he's in the boat. He's going away from the situation, and he's finally safe. And he's realizing the reality that just happened. That moments ago, he was sitting down with his wife and the rest of the people in this farmhouse about to eat dinner. Completely safe, nothing happening. And this kid shows up and all hell breaks loose, and he ends up abandoning his wife to be eaten up by these zombies. Right? And that's not the end of the short film. What happens next is you see these kids are going back into the UK, and that's where we're hearing, the U.S. military is helping with the people coming back, and they're in charge. Jeremy Renner playing Doyle is the sniper who's part of the military to watch over this hotel that's this compound of where the survivors are, right, to protect people from invading potential zombies or whatever. Which is interesting that they brought in the U.S. military. But I guess in the reality of this movie, the outbreak was confined to the UK. So I would imagine most people within the British military were victims of this virus, which, the current virus going around in our reality is infecting a lot of people in similar positions that probably aren't taking the proper precautions to protect themselves. But anyway, so we're given Jeremy Renner in this film, which I enjoy. Jeremy Renner, he's okay. There was a moment where I thought he was going to be the next big thing. It felt like he had some momentum behind him. Hurt Locker, and there was this Independent Tigerland, I think, was the big thing for him. And he was in a few things that I kind of enjoyed, and independent movies. But he's okay. I mean, he's always shows up weird in franchises. In the Bourne franchise, I think it was him in the Bourne franchise. In Mission Possible franchise, he's okay. In the Marvel franchise, he's okay. Comes into this one, he's okay. But anyway, these kids are coming, and the only reason these kids are coming, they're the first kids. They're not even supposed to be there. It's breaking protocol. But their dad, who is in charge, quote unquote, of the compound that people are surviving in, is Dawn. It is the guy who we saw abandon his wife earlier. And these are his actual kids. So his kids did survive. They were just They were able to. I don't know how they got away. I'm not even sure if this movie. Maybe they did express how they were able to get out of the UK. But anyway, they're coming back, and on their way back, there's a piece of dialogue where they're taking their blood or whatever. They're going over their medicals, and they find out that they have different colored like retinas in their eyes. Cuticles, retinas. Was that the color in the eyeball? The left eye is different from the right eye color, and they're like, and there's a big thing. It's like, oh, that's it's the genetics of your parents, where one thing of this swing and that, and it's kind of a theme of what happens. That's this brutal moment that I'm going to get to that makes this the first part of this movie so good. So anyway, the kids get there, and kids, as kids be, they sneak out of this hotel, and of course the military sees them, calls them like puppies or whatever, like they refer to the survivors as dogs or puppies, I guess, adults or kids. But they sneak out, and their whole goal is they want to go find their home, the home that they left when they first got evacuated or whatever. And that is where they find their mom hiding in the bedroom of the house that they all used to live at. And it's like, when I'm watching this movie and I see, like, I mean, it's a scary situation. They're going into this house. I mean, there's an earlier scene where they want to use one of these motor scooters to get to the house. So they go into this pizza shop and looking for keys, and a zombie attack them, or it's just scary. I don't think a zombie thing actually happens, but things move or whatever, and it's scary. It's a jump scare kind of a situation. And anyway, they go. And it's like there's a tension. They're walking into this abandoned house. You don't know what's in there. Is anything alive? I'm sure zombies have to be around the corner at any moment. It's 28 weeks later. What are we doing here? If not more zombies. A little over 4 years ago, I started The Many Faces. It's an ongoing series of abstract ink portraits. Each piece is improvised. Each piece is released daily. Start collecting now. Head on over to inspireddisorder.com/TMF. That stands for The Many Faces. And save yourself 25% when you use coupon code RTS. That stands for The Ray Taylor Show, because that's what you're listening to, and I love you. So I want you to save 25% when you use that coupon code. Head on over to inspireddisorder.com/TMF and use coupon code RTS to save 25% when you start collecting one of over 1,600 original ink paintings. By myself, I made them. Support me. I love you. Back to the show. So, of course, they find the mom behind it, which is like, when you see that she's alive, you're like, oh, now this dude who just told his kids the story of how his wife died, their mom died, that he implies that she died, he saw her die, which you would kind of assume in his situation, running away from that farmhouse, looking back over his shoulder, seeing her staring at him, giving him the eye one last time before she's gone. I can't believe you did this, Dawn. You left me here to die, Dawn. Thanks a lot, Dawn. She gets ripped away from the window. Of course, you're going to think she's dead. You're not going to be like, oh, she probably knows, like, Taekwondo and Muay Thai, and she survived. Like, there's this cutscene to her doing, like, action. No. Like, she's probably gone. Like, it was a safe assumption on his end. But he knows he abandoned her. And he's going to have to come to grips with that. So, like, when she's found, it's like ideas just rushing into my head of like, oh my gosh, this movie is going there and it's going to be amazing. Like, every aspect of the beginning of this movie is so good. It's just like, it's just like boom, sets like stakes higher, like this crazy internal family drama of him leaving her to die. Dawn, what are we doing? She survives. They bring her back. This just super emotional. She's just like completely damaged, PTSD. Obviously, she's seen. They don't know why she's alive. She's seen so much death. Somehow she survived. Clearly, you're going to have the most unique forms of PTSD imaginable. And she's crying as they're trying to scrub her. Super emotional scene. And then, like, you're seeing Dawn going to go visit her and confront her and apologize and hopefully see what happens. And in that moment, we're also being given the information of why. I mean, we see that, like, she has this bite mark on her arm. And they're like, how is she? She doesn't seem to be. And because I'm living in a pandemic. I mean, I don't know people watching this or listening to this episode. Maybe it's the future. Maybe the pandemic's actually over. But after surviving a pandemic to this point, they are basically using a lot of words to say that she's asymptomatic but still contagious. She has the virus in her, but she's not showing symptoms. She hasn't turned. But she can still spread the virus. It's still alive within her, and she can still spread the virus to people with her saliva or blood. Asymptomatic, still contagious. But there's not, it stays. It's not a virus that goes away. Apparently, this one sticks around. But yeah, she's asymptomatic, and you find this as he's like going in to talk to her and apologizing to her, and then you realize what's gonna. You're like, oh no, like he doesn't know this information yet. He broke protocol to go see her. She's not supposed to be seen. They're still trying to find out, and he's apologizing, and he thinks he's smoothed things over, and he goes to give her a kiss. Bad move, bro. Like, you could see it happening, but it's perfect the way it's written. It's perfect. It's the perfect loop to, like, he fucked up and now he's paying for it. Not that he would have been able to. I mean, even back then, they didn't know she was immune. They didn't know she would be asymptomatic. So even if he had tried to save her in that farmhouse, he would have been turned. There's no way he would have been able to, like, fight off these zombies. Maybe. Probably not. So, I mean, she did receive a bite on her arm, so she did escape somehow. So, assuming if she would able to avoid one bite, if he had helped, maybe she would have been able to survive. Didn't seem like that kid lived, though. That kid, for sure, is probably dead. She probably saw that kid die moments after the scene. It's probably while Dawn was trying to get into the boat. Oh, Dawn, trying to get into the boat. I'm sure that's when she was watching that kid die in front of herself. But yeah, she's asymptomatic, still contagious. He goes in to give her a kiss. And of course, instantaneously, he turns. And of course, instantaneously, he becomes the new patient zero. And from that starts, there's like this first person view of him going through and just, military people getting got, military people turning and as you see this virus spreading again. You see how fast it spreads once he gets it, once he turns, once Dawn turns and starts to spread this virus. It's just so fast how instantaneously it spreads throughout everything. And then you start seeing the crowds of people. That's, by the way, when this movie should end. Like him being, like, if they stretched out that first 45 minutes somehow, and the end of this movie being him being the new patient zero, like having a full movie fleshed out in the middle of that, and then halfway through the movie, the kids stumble upon their mom and bring her in, and there's that scene where it's like, oh no, the realization where it's like he doesn't understand that she's asymptomatic carrier of this virus, and he goes to kiss her, and the end of that movie should have been him reigniting the pandemic that's going on, the viral the zombie outbreak, let's say. Because what happens after that, we get, of course, the military trying to shoot zombies, which good luck in a chaotic situation being able to identify the people who are acting like zombies in that situation. Running, crazy, desperate, angry, freaking out. Like, there's very few, unless somebody's bleeding in some situation. Like, it's very difficult, which at some point the military just decides to throw that all away and execute everybody because they weren't able to contain it, despite how infinitely cocky they were, which is a great commentary on the United States and the United States military, thinking how cocky they are in all of the things they do, which the military, U.S. military, despite how much money is spent in the U.S. military, are pretty ineffective at what they do. Like, they don't really win things very much. It's just ways to, increase stock prices for the companies that make war machines. And that's when the movie turns. Once it becomes a survival movie involving Jeremy Renner and the kids and the whatever, it's still a fun movie. It's still a good movie. There are some crazy moments, like Jeremy Renner push starting this car and getting himself set on fire was insane. But it just, like, that build up and that reveal to, like, her being this, like, having some special ability, and then that guy kind of becoming the new ignition of this outbreak, being patient zero. Amazing. But then in this, after that, there's like these dark scenes, these night scenes where you cannot see anything. And that's like, I understand the need and the desire and the want to make night scenes or to set scenes at night. Sure, makes sense that things happen at nighttime. But there's so many films that have shown the proper way to light a scene at night. Look at the first Jurassic Park, great example. A lot of, like, terrifying night scenes, but still lit well enough to where you can see everything. This is like, it's tough to see. If you're watching this movie during the day on a TV, like, it is going to be hard to see, and unless you have, like, some super nice high-end TV. Like, you're going to have to black out the curtains to really see anything. It is just tough to see. And it's kind of cheesy. But there are still some good stuff. I enjoyed the movie overall. Let me see if there's stuff I'm missing here. Yeah, too dark. Oh, yeah, there's another cheesy scene. Oh, my God, forgot. There's this helicopter pilot, right? That's, buddies with Jeremy Renner's character, whatever. There's a scene, Jeremy Renner's trying to meet up with this guy. Okay, military, they're going to firebomb the city. So Jeremy Renner's trying to get these kids who are potentially the cure to this rage virus because they may have gotten the traits, the genes that their mom had that passed down, the eye color thing, whatever, potentially the cure. So now these kids are very, very needed. They need to survive. The survival of these kids are at the utmost need and desire. Anyway, Jeremy Renner's trying to get this helicopter pilot to go pick him up, and they're going to pick him up outside of the bombing zone, the firebomb zone. It's like, is he going to do it? Are they going to do it? Of course, they get through it. City gets bombed. Kind of looks cool. Sure. But then they meet up with this helicopter pilot who doesn't want to land because he sees that he's got more people. It's not just Jeremy Renner, and he's pissed off about it. And somehow they're able to have a conversation while he's hovering in the air, and Jeremy Renner's yelling at him because he doesn't land. He doesn't want to land because it's going to take too long to take off again. One of the guys that's in this group that's trying to survive runs up and grabs a hold of the helicopter, which at that point the helicopter starts flying all erratically, which I don't know if the movie's trying to tell me that the weight of that passenger jumping onto the side of the helicopter is causing the helicopter to fly erratically, or if it's just the pilot trying to shake him off. Both things could be, I don't know what the movie's trying to do. But then He flies this guy towards a group of zombies that are approaching, and tries to get him to fall off in the zombies, or trying to get the zombies to get him off of there. But there's this scene where he's like uses the blade of the helicopter to mow down all of these zombies, which looked dumb as shit. It looked like Sharknado type cheesy B-movie horror. What are we doing here? Like, do you like the person who sat down to conceive that scene cannot have been the same person that wrote the first 40 minutes of this movie. Like, the first 40 minutes are like emotional gut punch, like what? Reversals, craziness, outbreak starting again. And now we have a guy flying in a helicopter effortlessly mowing down zombies. Stupid. It was so stupid. There's another scene where, people have died off. Renner's been burnt to a crisp. They're going through somewhere indoors. I forget where they're at. I don't know if it's like a subway station or whatever, but they're inside somewhere. It's very dark, but all they have is the night vision on the sniper scope. And somehow, on a sniper scope, they are using it indoors to help guide these kids down an escalator without stepping on bodies. Which, the scene is scary. Like, if it had been a camcorder with night mode, it would have made more sense. But to say that a sniper scope, which is a highly zoom scope, is going to be used indoors to guide kids down a thing when you're like 10 feet away, it doesn't make any sense to me. But it's like a small nitpicky thing that just, once I realized it, it's like, are they using a sniper scope? Yeah. Like, they should have just had regular night vision goggles. Like, you don't have to have, like, there's things that you could use that other movies use. It could just be a pair of glasses and you call them night vision. It would have made more sense than supposedly using a sniper scope. So anyway, some super cheesy moments in the back half of this movie. The mowing down, the sniper night vision, the just hard to see anything nighttime scenes that are going on. And then, of course, the end of this movie, trying to set up a third film, which there's been discussions off and on over the long amount of time that this movie's been out, that there would be a follow-up 28 months later. This movie ends with the virus being spread to France by, I assume, the pilot, like one of the kids has it dormant. I think the boy got bit, but because he had his mom's genes, he didn't change. So his spit or something got on the helicopter pilot, and he spread it in Paris. So it's going to be the third one 28 months later, turning out in Paris, which is landlocked. It's not landlocked, but it's not an island that is easily cut off and quarantined from society. So there's been talks apparently of a third film. I would love to see a third film. I would prefer it be Danny Boyle coming back. I think that would be a lot of fun, and I think that's been one of the two people mentioned in the discussion of a third film, is him coming back as director. But yeah, the beginning of this movie, I thought it was going to be one of the greatest movies I had ever seen. It's like, if this first half of the film is this like poetic and brutal, then what do I have in store for the rest? And it's like, oh no, it's just kind of like, it's okay. It's just they're on the run and some cool scenes, but it's not as dramatic as that first scene where you realize that the mom's alive, and then she's a asymptomatic carrier, and that he's going to be patient zero unknowingly, thinking he's apologizing. Crazy start. Overall, it was an okay movie. I don't know. I would say the first one is overall better, more consistent from top to bottom, where this one, it definitely falls off in the second half. But worth checking out nonetheless. It's a great franchise, 2-movie franchise, which I would love to see a third one at some point, which you never know. You never know what can happen in this crazy world. But check it out, 28 weeks later. New episodes of The Ray Taylor Show come out every single day. Subscribe on IGTV, YouTube, everywhere else podcasts are found. Binge the full week ad-free over at patreon.com/inspireddisorder. Buy Ray Taylor Show merch over at inspireddisorder.com. Follow the show on Instagram at Ray Taylor Show. Have a wonderful week, everybody. Peace out!